Hello and welcome to another episode of Scott from Scotland. You join me on a beautiful sunny afternoon. Today we're going to be talking about why the Fiat 500 is such a great little car. This actually originated from Seen Through Glass when he got his Fiat 500 as a courtesy car when his Alpha 4C was in the shop getting its wing fixed, and he hated it, but I thought I'd do a video to explain exactly why I think he wasn't quite on the nose. So the Fiat 500 came about when basically Fiat was in a bit of a rut. I don't know if anyone wants to wind their mind back to mid-2000s, but the Fiat of then, you had the Punto, which was fairly awful, and the Panda, which was basic and rattly, the Seicento, which I think were just phasing out, the Multipla, which was one of probably the biggest Marmite car of the time, with its ridiculous duckbill and 3x3 seating configuration. Nice idea, but not quite as well executed as I think they were hoping. And of course they had that ridiculous people carrier, the Ulysses, whatever it was called anyway, that horrific thing. So yeah, the sales were not exactly fantastic for Fiat. And of course, on top of that, they had the stress of Alfa Romeos weren't really performing. They were losing money hand over fist and all the rest of it. So the designers were tasked with trying to find something reasonably cheap, but something that they could pull out of the bag, basically. I think a lot of it actually came from the fact that the Mini was launched not a couple of years before, and of course it, as everyone knows, was a massive hit. So yeah, I think they decided to do a bit of copying and came up, dived through all their archives and came up with the Fiat 500. Did a little bit of tweaking, took it into the 21st century and threw it into production. And hey presto, it was an absolute sales goldmine. Massively popular, cracking little car. Sold in the millions. And yeah, it's such a little fashion icon. As you know, Knightsbridge and all those fancy areas of London and Glasgow and Edinburgh and Manchester and every city in the UK will be able to tell you almost every street will have a Fiat 500 somewhere. It's a fashionable car, it's a cheap car, it's basically everything that, you know, the image conscious person wants in the UK nowadays. Something that looks good, something that's cheap to run. They're not really fussed about their performance, but it gets them from A to B and is actually a great little car around town. Yeah, and Fiat 100% nailed it. And thanks to that Fiat 500, they've managed to now put money into the new twin air engine, which is a cracking little engine. They've invested in the Panda and the Punto, which again are now recovering and look a whole load better than they did. So they're really nice cars. And of course it means that they can put money into Alfa Romeo again with the gorgeous Giulietta, and of course the 4 and 8C, and of course the Disco Volante. So yeah, in terms of performance, the Fiat 500 was never going to, you know, break records or anything like that. Thankfully they had the tuning company Abarth to take over that role, and to be quite honest, I think Abarth have done a pretty good job with the 500. It's an absolute pocket rocket. But for the rest of us who or for the rest of the fashionably conscious that wanted just a great little runabout, it started off with the 1.2 and the 1.4 in the lounge, pop and the sport versions, as I remember correctly. I actually got a Fiat 500 as a hire car for 2 weeks while mine was in the garage getting its rear end straightened out after some idiot ran into the back of it. And I have to say, I absolutely loved it. Mine was a 1.4 Sport, and yeah, I pretty much just left it in Sport all the time, because it meant that the steering was more weighty and the throttle response was sharpened up, and around town it was just hilarious. Absolutely loved it. Once you were out of town, granted, it was never going to be all that pokey, but the engine certainly was so rev happy. Really was just, you could just thrash it and it would just love every second of it. And of course it had the perfect chassis to be thrown around town, with each wheel right in the corner and a nice square wheelbase. So the handling around town was cracking. And yeah, I don't think I've ever driven a car around town as fast as I did with the Fiat 500, because it was just so chuckable that, you know, it would just go around in rails. It was really good fun. Sadly, nowadays they have got rid of the sport mode, which personally I think is a bit of a mistake, but hey ho, I know nothing. To be fair, most of the cars that most of the Fiat 500s that go out, the owners aren't really bothered with 0 to 60 times and all the rest of it. And also because they've got the Abarth version, then most people are going to go for that over, you know, a sport Fiat 500. So they have taken it out, although they do have 2 twin-air options. So they've got the 85 brake horsepower or the 105 brake horsepower twin-air options. Personally, I would definitely go for the 105, and also, God knows why you would want to, but anyone who specs an automatic in a small car is quite frankly an idiot, because in my experience I have yet to find a small car that works with an automatic gearbox, because it's just too small. Because it just means that it's jerky, it's horrible, it's slow, it's just a waste of time. Fine if you're absolutely not interested in driving at all, but your fuel economy goes down, your enjoyment of the car goes down. It's each to their own, but personally I think you're mad if you go for an automatic gearbox. Yeah, I would always spec a manual in a small car. It just makes so much more sense. But yeah, so definitely seen through glass, you got stuffed over on that one with an 1.2 automatic. I can only only imagine how bad that would have been. Definitely my choice would be, if you're buying a second-hand one, try and find a 1.4 Sport. It's a cracking little car. Otherwise, if you're buying a new one, definitely go for the Twin Air. It's meant to be just as rev happy, and of course you get the actual power, which means you can climb hills, unlike the 1.2s of modern day. So yeah, definitely spend that little bit extra money and get a decent Fiat 500, and I promise you will have fun in that car. Yeah, so that's my personal view on the Fiat 500. Personally, I think it's a cracking car, and I would urge anyone to go and have a shot in them, because they are actually, they're cheap, they're cheerful, they look great, and they are actually a lot of fun to drive. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe.